There's not a day that goes by that does not hold the potential to become one of those days that you wouldn't be able to forget even if you wanted to. I want to tell you about one of those days of my life. I can't remember the exact date, but it's safe to say it's probably 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more. But I can't remember the exact date, but what I can't forget is the experience or the details. I'm talking about the day I spit a whole mouthful of Dr. Pepper all over my friend. His name's Chris, so I'm just going to stick with his first name, but we were having lunch together at this restaurant in Houston when it happened. I appreciate he didn't get mad at me, but he did have to go home and change clothes before he went back to work. Anyhow, the need had come up for me to go to Houston. I'd got involved in this little business venture that I was getting into, and I had to go down for this meeting, sign some papers. Had a meeting scheduled for 3 o'clock the next afternoon. Well, from where I live, it's about a 6-hour drive to Houston. I live up above Dallas. I call it South Oklahoma. It's not a bad drive, just straight down I-45, but it's a long way. Anyway, I figured I'd leave that morning around sunup. I'd drive to Houston and get there in time to have a good lunch and be relaxed by the time I was supposed to be in this meeting. I didn't expect the meeting to be over till late afternoon, so my plan was that, I'd made a reservation at the Best Western. Figured I'd get a good night's sleep and then drive back home the next morning. Then I had the idea to call this old buddy of mine. I hadn't seen him in several years. Chris and I had gone to college together, and we'd stayed in touch over the years, but mostly just by email. Chris lives in Houston, and it turns out he works just a few blocks from the building where I was supposed to be at, so we agreed to meet around 12:30 and have lunch together. We could visit for a couple hours, and I could still get to my meeting on time. Well, that's what we did. We met at this restaurant he had suggested and got seated. The place wasn't very crowded, maybe about half full. Well, Chris and I were seated right just about dead center of this dining room. And the table to our immediate left over here was occupied by 3 women. They all looked to be probably about 30 years old, give or take just a little bit. Now, I'm not really trying to make any extra effort to eavesdrop on these women. And you notice I'm not using the word ladies, and you'll understand why in a minute or two. I'm just trying to visit with my friend. But the room was quiet, there was no background music, and these women really weren't whispering to one another. I can't quote word for word what was said, it's been too long, but I can give you a pretty accurate accounting of what the gist of the conversation was. For a little background, it was apparent that one of these women had been to a family reunion just a couple of days earlier. During that family get-together, she explained that her sister had embarrassed me so bad right in front of Mama. She sat right there at that table, me, her, Mama, and Aunt Peggy, and she accused me of trying to steal her man. Okay. Now I'm not trying so hard not to eavesdrop. And then she went on. She said, that's what she said to me. Says she knew I'd been having sex with him. Says she knew it. She even shouted out when and where. Well, you can imagine by now everybody in the restaurant has heard what's going on and everybody's interested. Well, she continued. She said, I could tell by the look on Mama's face, there weren't no sense lying about it, at least not about being with him. So, here we are. I'm not even pretending to not be listening at this point. I'm kind of anxious to know what happened next. Well, she went on. She said, I was so mad I couldn't think what to say. I just told her she was bat crap crazy. I told her I don't want to steal your man. He ain't good but for just one thing anyhow, and I don't need to steal him for that. I just want to borrow him once in a while. She come out when I just wants to borrow him once in a while, and I had just took a big old sip of my Dr. Pepper, and I totally lost it. And that's when Chris ended up wearing my Dr. Pepper. One of them days you don't forget. Till we talk next time, be good to one another, and God bless you.